What's up, snappers? Welcome back to the channel. Drewski here. Today we're gonna be looking at the brand new card, Human Torch First Steps, to see if he's worth the precious resources. We're gonna be looking at his key synergies, counters, and some decks that I brewed for him. But wait, before we do that, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. I do weekly reviews of the brand new card in Marvel Snap, so if you don't want to miss out, hit that notification bell right now. Now let's get back into it. I forgot to mention that I'm running a giveaway for season passes in Marvel Snap, the Fantastic Four season. If you want to enter in the giveaway, follow the instructions in the description below, and good luck to the people that are entering in the giveaway. Now the question is, who is Human Torch First Steps? Let's take a look. So Human Torch First Steps is a 3-cost 2-power card with the ability of end of turn plus 1 power. Once per game, if your side here is full, double this card's power instead. So I believe the ability is very powerful in Marvel Snap. The ability is definitely easier to achieve compared to its original form. Getting that plus 1 power per turn is going to be really good. The power potential of this card is going to be pretty crazy because it happens at the end of the turn, so you don't have to be super worried about Shang-Chi at times. This card is surprisingly very flexible in a way. There's a lot of decks that he could fit in, and there's some synergies with a lot of different cards that work well. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons of Human Torch First Steps. So the first pro that I want to talk about is that it's a possible 6 power without filling the lane and a 12 power with the filled lane with 7 turns. So that power output of this card is crazy. You definitely want to have more turns to generate more power with that end of turn ability. You definitely want to take advantage of that doubling up of power of Human Torch. It's pretty nice that it happens at the end of the turn as well. Another pro that I want to talk about is that it's a passive power gain. It's really nice that you don't have to move the card just like the original Human Torch. It's nice that it just generates power on its own. That plus 1 power at the end of the turn is really nice. And then getting that double up is definitely more icing on the cake. So the last pro that I want to talk about is that it avoids Shang-Chi before doubling up his power. It's really nice that his ability happens at the end of the turn, so you don't have to have that big power on the board. So now let's talk about the cons. Unfortunately, the card has to be on the board in order to get that power growth. There are ways to generate power of him, like Gwenpool in the hand, but in a sense, you are losing power if you don't have him on the board. Another con about him is that you have to fill the lane in order to get that doubling up of power. There's a lot of situations in Marvel Snap that you don't want to fill up a lane too early, especially before turn 6. I personally don't like to do that because it makes your plays predictable, or the power that's on the board a little bit more predictable for your opponent. So you definitely have to be careful if you're hard committing to that lane with Human Torch and just being okay with having a filled up board. So the last con that I want to talk about is that the card has a lot of counters going against it. Unfortunately, there's tons of counters. I will mention the next slide, but there are a lot, and you have to be careful of the counters because they do exist in Marvel Snap. Now let's take a look at the synergies and counters for Human Torch First Steps. So the first synergy that I want to talk about is Elsa Bloodstone. Elsa Bloodstone loves cards that are filled in her lane. Human Torch is another great example of a card that you can play at the last, card in the spot to get that power with Elsa Bloodstone. Silver Surfer is a great synergy with Human Torch. You saw in the dev video that he synergizes well because, of course, Human Torch is a 3-cost card. And the next card that I want to talk about is Brood. Brood will fill up a lane with 2 other Broodlings, and then Human Torch can fill up that lane, and then you can power up that lane with Silver Surfer or other cards. Now let's talk about the counters. Red Guardian is a counter for Human Torch. Human Torch is an end of turn card, so Red Guardian should be able to disable it, especially when it's a low power like 2. Shadow King is another great counter against Human Torch because Human Torch is going to be generating all that power. Of course, it's not going to be able to counter the last turn where it does the plus 1 power, but all that power that's been generated beforehand, it should be able to be reset by Shadow King. And then Shang-Chi is a counter against Human Torch. If they double up that power early enough, they can Shang-Chi that Human Torch. But of course, if you don't double up that power, or your opponent doesn't double up that power of Human Torch, then obviously Shang-Chi won't work. But if they do it early enough, Shang-Chi will definitely destroy this card. Now let's take a look at the decks that I brewed. I think they're pretty fun and competitive. Let's take a look. So the first deck that we have is called Surf and Flame and Turf. So this is my take on the Silver Surfer archetype that works well with Human Torch. I believe Human Torch is a great fit in this list, especially being a 3-cost card and then being able to generate more power just like Sebastian Shaw. Zabu is here to discount our 4-cost cards. We have 3 of them, so Zabu has tremendous value. Mr. Fantastic is an amazing card in this list, especially giving discounts to your cards and getting that +2 power is going to be very clutch with cards like Brood, Sebastian Shaw, and of course Human Torch. Surge is an amazing 2-cost card. Of course, getting that -1 cost or +1 power is very similar like Mr. Fantastic, so a huge great utility card for this type of list. Brood, like I mentioned, is a great synergy with Human Torch and of course works very well with Silver Surfer, so you could definitely use Brood to fill up a lane and then finish it off with Human Torch. And then we have Captain Carter. Captain Carter, you definitely want to power up with cards like Mr. Fantastic, Surge, Galacta, Gwenpool. Having her in the front row will generate tons of power. Human Torch, like I mentioned, you definitely want to power him up with cards like Mr. Fantastic, Surge, Galacta, Gwenpool. Power is going to be nuts with this card. Then obviously you finish him off with Silver Surfer. Red Guardian is just an amazing counter card in this list, especially being a 3-cost card. You can power him up after you use him. Silver Surfer is our finisher in this list. You definitely want to save him for the later turns. Sebastian Shaw is our power card. You definitely want to power him up with cards like Surge, Mr. Fantastic, Galacta, Gwenpool. Shang-Chi is our counter card for all those big cards on your opponent's side. You can use them to destroy them. You definitely want to use Galacta, Gwenpool to power up cards like Mr. Fantastic, Brood, Human Torch, Sebastian Shaw. The list goes on and on. Now let's take a look at my second list. Now this list is called Supreme Torch. This is my take on the token archetype that I believe will work well with the Human Torch. You could easily fill up lanes for Human Torch with the token cards in this list and then potentially absorb them with Strange Supreme. The Hood is here for his token, the Demon, and you can discount Mockingbird with the Demon. You could even remove the Hood with Merlin, and you could even change the Hood with Cersei. Squirrel Girl is a great token card in this list to discount cards like Mockingbird and to fill up potentially a lane with Human Torch. Strange Supreme is our vacuum in this list to absorb the token cards like Mysterio's clones, Squirrel Girls, Squirrels. He's also here to make space for Human Torch if you don't want to fill up his lane permanently. Armor is here to protect our big cards like Human Torch and Sasquatch. Merlin's skills are amazing in this type of list. You can remove the Hood off the board. You can even change the Squirrels or even the Mysterio clones. Mysterio's here to fill up the lanes for Sasquatch discount, Mockingbird discount. Human Torch, you want to aim to have the Squirrels or the Mysterio clones in his lane. So potentially you could have Strange Supreme take those cards away from his lane after you double up his power. Cosmo is here to protect our big cards like Strange Supreme, Sasquatch, or even Human Torch if you double up his power early. The Sentry is a great power card in this list. You can remove the Void with Merlin's spells. Technically, Strange Supreme can absorb the Void, so you have to be careful of that. And even having the Void on the board, you can change it with Cersei. Cersei is really good in this list to change cards like the Hood, the Void, or anything bad on your side, maybe even a Squirrel or a Mysterio clone. Mockingbird just gets value with this list with all the tokens like Squirrel Girls, Squirrels, and Mysterio clones, and even Demon. Sasquatch should get some pretty good discounts with this list, especially with the Mysterio clones or any of the other plays that you do with this list. Now let's take a look at my third and final list. Now this list is called Flame On. This is my take on the good counter card type of list featuring Elsa Bloodstone powering up Human Torch. We have Kitty Pryde here to generate power with Angela or Elsa Bloodstone. Zabu is here to discount all of our 4-cost cards here, and we have 4 of them, so tremendous value. Surge is here because she's one of the best 2 cards in the game, and she discounts cards, and that +1 power is going to be tremendous with any of the cards in this list. Angela, you definitely want to use her to generate power with Kitty Pryde, Jeff, Human Torch, or Elsa Bloodstone. What's nice about Angela is that you can set up her lane and then potentially have Jeff in her lane and then have the Human Torch there. Double up Human Torch's power and then move with the Jeff out of his lane. Jeff is here to be a temporary placeholder in a lane. If you want to fill up a certain lane, you could have him in that lane. and then move them out later. I believe Human Torch will work well with cards like Elsa, Bloodstone, Angela, those type of cards that you want to fill up that certain lane and then move cards out of that lane. I think it's going to be really valuable. Elsa, Bloodstone you could use to power up cards like Kitty Pryde, Jeff, or Human Torch. Hope Summers works well in this type of list if you want to play cards in her lane or in the lane with Angela. You start generating power and energy is going to be really crazy. Shang-Chi and Enchantress are our counters in this list. You could use Shang-Chi for those big power cards or Enchantress to disable those ongoing cards. Galacta and Gwenpool, like I mentioned in the previous list, are our power generator cards. You could use them for any of these cards in this list. You could definitely aim to juice up power in Human Torch or any of the other cards. Now let's take a look at the seasonal series 5 pack that is featuring Human Torch First Steps. So Human Torch First Steps is with Merlin, Herbie, Kid Omega, The Thing, and Invisible Woman. Merlin and Herbie are already in the snap pack. Human Torch is on the 15th, Kid Omega on the 16th, The Thing on the 22nd, and the Invisible Woman on the 29th. So looking back at the cards that are already in the snap pack, Merlin is definitely a must-have. His skills are very good, so definitely pick him up if you can. Herbie is relatively new to the game, so if you like his utility, then definitely pick him up.
Kid Omega is a good pickup if you like Destroy. If you don't, then definitely skip on him. The Thing and the Invisible Woman are not out yet, but I will review them later in the future.
So remember guys that you have the potential of getting the previous season cards with this seasonal series 5 pack like Morgan Le Fay, Ancient One, Nightmare, Dormammu, and Clea, and including the other cards like Merlin, Kid Omega, and Herbie. Now let's take a look at the community predictions for Human Torch First Steps. So the community has said S tier 29%, A tier 52%, B tier 15%, and C tier 4%. So the community overall believes that Human Torch is a tier card. Here is a community review from Undead Eggmeister. Thank you again for your response. They said A,
if not S, in Surfer and possibly Zoo. Everything else, not sure, especially since we don't know how powerful the end of turn archetype will be
until the season is finished. I agree with this statement, but I'm not sure about the Zoo statement. I thought about creating a deck with Zoo, but I couldn't really see a good fit with him in it.
For the powerful end of turn archetype, sure, maybe there's some questions about it, but I believe personally that end of turn is actually going to be really good.
Because in a way, it's kind of hard to counter, right? There's not really many counters against it yet, so
we will see how the future unfolds with like end of turn.
Thank you again, guys, for your review and response about my community post. If you want to be featured in the next video, make sure to follow my community post about the brand new card in Marvel Snap. And thank you guys again for your valuable feedback. Now let's take a look at my star ratings for Human Torch First Steps. So for competitive, I gave him 4 stars. I believe his power output is through the roof. If you have 7 turns, 6 power, and then if you fill a lane, 12 power, which is really good for a 3-cost card. For fun, I gave him a 4 stars. I believe a lot of people love generating power with cards, so I would say a very fun factor, 4 stars. Flexibility,
3 stars. You saw the decks that I brewed. It's very flexible in a way,
but I would say his situation of filling a lane is going to be very dependent on the cards that you surround him with. So that's kind of like the negative of the 2 stars that I gave him.
Future changes, 1.5 stars. I don't believe this card is going to get nerfed. Maybe if it's too overpowered, definitely can have a power nerf. So we'll see in the future. If it's too much, then it's definitely going to get nerfed. I would definitely say that's not going to get buffed
by any chance. So just be careful that it potentially can get nerfed in the future. Now let's take a look at my final review of Human Torch First Steps. Is he worth a sniper skip? Let's take a look.
So for seasonal series 5 pack, I gave him a 4 stars.
If you could pick him up day 1, I think is definitely worth picking up. The series 5 pack, which is called the Collector's Series 5 pack,
I gave him a 3 stars. It's gonna be kind of tough if you wait on getting him. I'm not sure if it's gonna be worth picking him up because his ability is very niche in a way, and you're gonna be dealing with a lot of other competition of the cards that are in that pack. So 3 stars.
6k tokens. I gave him a
3 stars. I personally believe he's not worth that many tokens. I think he's definitely worth picking up for 5k
from the seasonal series 5 pack. So
definitely, I would say go for the pack instead of using tokens.
for my overall rating for this card, I gave him a 4 stars. It's a half star more than my initial review. And with that being said, I would say Human Torch first step is a snap. I believe his power is immense in Marvel Snap. Generating that power should be pretty easy with his passive ability.
I would say the only thing that's a negative about this card potentially is filling a lane and potentially clogging yourself. And if you are stuck in a way where you're like, oh, I have to hard commit, and then, oh, oops, I didn't want to fill up a lane,
then that's the only huge negative. And of course, like I mentioned, there's a lot of counters going against this card, so don't believe that this card is invincible. There is Shadow King, Shang-Chi, there are tons of counter cards. The Red Guardian, for example, is another counter card. So be careful with this card. With a lot of power, is going to be asking for a lot of counters.
So what are your thoughts on Human Torch first steps? Am I completely wrong? Did I miss any synergies? Did I miss any decks that he works well with?
Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel. I would love for you to be a part of this amazing community here on YouTube. And I'll see you guys in the next Snapper Skip. Happy snapping.